Women's basketball earns a striking win, cross country competes in its final meet of the year, and college football loses a beloved icon. It's time to come on down to Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Bryn Reese, back for another week of sports news. Now to start, Point Park men's basketball earned its first NCAA Division II win on Saturday against Mansfield at the Ron Wilson Classic in Millersville, Pennsylvania. The two teams experienced 10 lead changes and 6 tied scores in the first half alone. With 3.5 minutes left in the first, the Pioneers went on a 10-4 run to conclude the first half, 42-36. However, the Mountaineers came off out of halftime ready, tying things up 2 minutes into the second, 42-42. After even more back and forth and a tight battle for the lead, the Pioneers went on an offensive streak with roughly 4 minutes left on the clock to increase their lead through the end of the game with a final score of 90-73. Now, Warner led the team in scoring by a mile, becoming the first men's basketball college athlete in Pittsburgh to drop a 30-piece. He went 8 for 14 from 3 and recorded 5 assists and 2 steals. The Pioneers had 3 additional players score in the double digits, including Lance Singh with 15 points, Aiden Anderson with 14 points, and Nazareth Fisher with 12 points, who finished with a double-double, recording an impressive 13 rebounds as well. Next, the Pioneers had a quick turnaround to the second game of the weekend, where they took on Millersville, the host team, on Sunday afternoon. Point Park faced an opposite fate, suffering their first loss of the season. Millersville asserted dominance quickly in the game, establishing an early 9-0 lead that soon increased to a 16-3 score minutes later. The Marauders continued to take advantage of Point Park's scoring troubles, forcing many turnovers and offensive blunders. The first half ended 52-25 as the Pioneers went 30% from the field in the half compared to Millersville's 62% field goal success. The Pioneers went on to lead the scoring column in the second, scoring 47 points, and Point Park held the Marauders to a 1-8 three-point margin and a 45.5 field goal percentage. Despite a strong showing both offensively and defensively by the Pioneers in the second, it wasn't enough for them to chip away at the massive deficit established in the first half. The game ended with a final score of 95-72. Now, transfer Brendan Williams played 26 minutes off the bench to lead the scoring column for the Pioneers with 14 points, going 5 for 11 from the field. Additionally, freshman Aiden Miller earned his first collegiate start, dropping 10 points and 5 rebounds. Now, head coach Kevin Reynolds shared that the lack of rest between games and an insufficient coaching effort allowed Millersville to take control early on in the game. Reynolds said, quote, "From a coaching standpoint, we didn't do a good enough job of getting the guys energized and ready to play a team like Millersville," end quote. The Pioneers go on to play their first ever MEC conference game on Thursday on their home court versus Glenville State, and tip-off is at 7:30. Now, switching gears to women's basketball, the Lady Pioneers traveled to Millersville this weekend as well to compete in a 2-game challenge, but they more recently played on their home opener on Monday versus the Berkeley College of New York. After 2 straight losses to open the season this weekend, the Pioneers were looking to make a statement against the Knights, and they did just that. The Pioneers took a quick lead in the game after 5 points from Ari Blada in the first couple of minutes to go up 7-2. Now, some foul trouble from Point Park allowed the Knights to get several more on the board from the 3 free throw line, but the Pioneers stayed in control. Several players came off the bench in the second quarter to increase the Pioneers' lead, and they worked their way up to a 15-point lead and kept things going to end the first half 44-34. Now, in the second half, the Pioneers had the Knights on lock. The Pioneers ran away with the lead in the third, holding Berkeley to only 7 points in the quarter to end the third 72-41. The fourth quarter was pretty much deja vu for the Pioneers, allowing only 8 points from the Knights and scoring 22 more to put the nail in the coffin, ending the game 94-49. By the end of the evening, the Knights shot only 28.2% from the field and 16.7% from 3. In addition, the Pioneers combined for 10 steals and managed a striking 23 points off of turnovers to add to what was a rough night for Berkeley. Transfer Camille Foltz led the Pioneers to victory with 17 points and 11 rebounds. Right behind, we had notable performances from Achada Ballo with 15 points and 8 assists, Ari Blada with 13 points and 12 rebounds, and Bella Pelea with 11 points and 3 steals. The women played their first MEC matchup on Thursday at home right before the men's game at 5:30 p.m. Admission is free for Point Park students. When we come back, more on Point Park sports, followed by some special guests. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Next, Edmi Idalis has an update on volleyball's recent outing. Edmi?
Thanks, Bryn. Point Park suffered a 3-0 loss to MEC North leader Wheeling on Friday night at the Student Center, with final set scores of 26-24, 25-21, and 25-17. With the win, Wheeling improves to 20-9 overall and 11-2 in conference play, while Point Park drops to 5-20 overall and 3-10 in the MEC. The opening set was a tight contest featuring 15 ties and 10 lead changes, but Wheeling ultimately took it 26-24. Patricio Colera Eritza and Julia Falador led Point Park in the set with 7 and 6 kills respectively. For the match, Falador led the Pioneers with 15 kills and 5 digs and a block, while Eden McElhaney contributed 11 kills and 13 digs. Elise Wallace added a team-high 23 assists. The Pioneers hit at a percentage of 2-24 on the night with 47 kills and 19 errors on 125 attacks. Wheeling's Riley Kendall led her team with 12 kills and 9 digs, while Allie Finch and Maddie Winters contributed 10 and 9 kills respectively. Setter Carly Neeson dished out 39 assists at Wheeling, hit at a percentage of .354 overall, committing only 9 errors. Point Park is set to host Fairmont State on Wednesday for senior night, where 9 seniors will be honored. The first serve is at 7 p.m. This will be the Pioneers' final game of MEC regular season play. Following Wednesday's matchup, the Pioneers will finish off their season at Salem University. Good luck to the women. Next, I'm sending things over to Ryan Quinn for an update on cross country's recent invitational. Ryan?
Thanks, Edmi. The men's and women's cross-country teams competed in the Red Flash Rally at St. Francis University on Saturday, in what was a great meet for the school. Starting with the men's 6K, the team dominated with an impressive 2nd overall placing. Senior Yannick Windelband finished 3rd overall with a time of 19 minutes, 50.6 seconds. Freshmen Chase Bowen and Albin Petschauer also took home top 10s for the men, with Chase finishing with a time of 20 minutes and 28 seconds and Albin with a time of 20 minutes and 32.8 seconds, which was good for 7th and 8th place respectively. For the women's 4K, 2 runners placed in the top 10, while 2 others placed just outside the top 10. Senior Jana Schmid led the way, finishing with 2nd overall with a stellar time of 15 minutes and 20.7 seconds. Freshman Lotte Zethoff also managed to score a top 10 finish for Point Park with a time of 16 minutes, 17.4 seconds. Freshman Beth Moody showed off her skills as well, as she just barely placed outside the top 10, finishing 11th overall with a time of 16 minutes, 23.6 seconds. Good job to our runners this week. Now back to Bryn at the desk, who is joined by some very special guests. Bryn?
Thanks, Ryan. Now I'm joined by Point Park women's basketball players Emma Pavlik, Isabella Pelaya, and Camila Foltz, who are coming off a massive win against the Berkeley College Knights. To start, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you
Thanks
guys
for having
taking the
us.
time. And to start, I know you guys graduated a few players, brought new players on, pretty new roster. How has that been adjusting to a new team, both on and off the court?
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult whenever you lose a lot of players, and especially big-time players like Jillian Piccolino and Gabby. I mean, you're always going to struggle for a little bit to begin there. But I think a big part of it is just regaining that confidence in the players that we do have on the court here now and trying to build up that chemistry again that we kind of lost by losing some of those players. So it takes a couple games, takes a little while, but we'll get there eventually, and I'm really happy with the progress that we've been making and where we're at right now.
Amazing. And then Camille, I know you're coming from Clark State. What brought you to Point Park, and how's that transition been kind of getting here?
Yeah, so Clark State was a junior college, so at the end of my sophomore year, I was really looking to see what schools were interested and what schools I was interested in. Point Park, I really liked the coach. I met some of the staff on my visit, and the girls. It just seemed like a really positive place, and I knew it was a place that I could develop my game at, as well as like they have a very good team environment, so I knew we could do good things here.
Amazing. And then you guys are coming off a busy weekend and then a massive win on Monday. Your first MEC game is tomorrow. What are some adjustments, some things you're doing to prepare for that game tomorrow?
So right now we're really focusing on, I think one thing that we realized from our losses over the weekend, that we're improving our offense. So that's something that last two practices we've really focused on, is implementing like a new offense in addition to our dribble drive. So we put in more of a structured offense that I think will really help us with breaking up some of the stagnant movements in our offense. There's a lot of sometimes we fall into a situation where there's not as much movement and we need more passing, more cutting. So I think that's something we're really looking forward to putting into our offense.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it's never really been defense that's been our problem. I think as a team and as a whole, we play really good one-on-one defense and we play really well as a team together. And like Bella said, I think that our biggest thing here is just hitting our shots. We're getting open shots, they're just not falling, and that just is part of the team chemistry, part of building up your confidence. We're just a couple games in, we have time to build that up and shots will start to fall for us.
Amazing. And I know you guys seem like a pretty tight-knit group off the court. How does that kind of translate on the court and affect you guys in game?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing I think in any sport is the friendships that you make and the people that you surround yourself with. And that's one thing I really, really love about Point Park is I not only found a fantastic team and a great program, but I really did find my best friends, and I think everyone here would attest to that. It's more than just basketball, and when something is more than just the sport you're playing, you're destined to do good things on the court, just like you're doing off the court.
Amazing. And I know everyone's been talking about your D2 now, Mountain East. You have new opponents, new teams. What are you guys kind of doing to prepare for those new teams facing a whole new schedule?
I think going D2 is definitely a transition for anyone, but for us it's just about focusing on the fundamentals. Our basketball talent, we have all the talent there that's necessary to compete at this level. Every girl is a really solid basketball player. If we just break it down to the fundamentals, do the little things, we're right there with all of the other D2 teams that we're going to be playing.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Really appreciate you guys coming here. That's all the time we have today. But do not miss the women's team as they take on Glenville State in their MEC opener on Thursday at 5:30. Now this weekend we have a busy one for Point Park Sports as volleyball competes in its final game on Friday against Salem, followed by men's basketball at home on Saturday against Penn State New Kensington. Women's basketball is on the road later that day to face Cal PA. Then men's basketball kicks off the following week versus Penn State Greater Allegheny at home. Tune in right here next week for more news and updates on Point Park Sports, and games are available live for free on mountaineast.tv. And as always, go Pioneers. After the break, more of what's happening in the sports world. Don't go anywhere.
Two, one. take them cue and open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Welcome back. Now what's happening in local sports? Ryan Thiele is here with a Pittsburgh update. Ryan?
Thanks, Bryn. It was a busy week here, starting with the Steelers as they took on a red-hot Jaden Daniels-led Washington Commanders. Russell Wilson had another great game since the lone wolf moved from Coach Tomlin. He went 14 for 28 with 195 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. The defense also shined by pressuring rookie Jaden Daniels and forcing 3 sacks, making him feel uncomfortable in the pocket. Mike Williams had an immediate impact on the game by catching the game-winning touchdown, sealing the 28-27 win, and pushing the Steelers to a 7-2 record, keeping them top of the AFC North and a 3rd seed in the AFC. They take on the Ravens this Sunday at home at 1 p.m. Moving over to college, formerly ranked Pitt Panthers suffered a crushing upset to unranked Virginia for the 4th straight week. The offense for the Panthers failed to grab the magic they had earlier this year. With the offense not performing and countless borderline calls went against the Panthers, the most noteworthy one was a 4th and 1 stop by the Panthers taken away because of the refs were not set in position before the ball was snapped. This call led to a Virginia field goal securing the 24-19 upset on the Panthers. They have another massive game this weekend as they take on Clemson at home in the noon slot. Sliding over the ice, the Penguins continued struggling, only winning 1 game in the past week. Most recent game was an embarrassing loss to the Dallas Stars at home on Monday night. Rookie goaltender Joel Blomqvist led in 3 goals on 6 shots. He was pulled in the first period. This loss dropped the Penguins' record to 6-9-2 on the year. In most recent Pens news, the Pens traded 35-year-old forward Lars Eller to his former team, the Washington Capitals, who he won the Cup in 2018. The Penguins received a 3rd and a 5th-round draft pick for Eller. Finally, the Pittsburgh Pirates' young phenom ace pitcher Paul Skeens has been nominated for 2 regular season awards for the MLB. On Monday night, Paul Skeens was nominated for the NL Rookie of the Year and the NL Cy Young. Skeens has a Cy Young worthy year, throwing a ERA of 1.96 and 133 total innings pitched, only allowing 29 earned runs and striking out 170 total batters. The winner of these awards happened on November 20th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Now we have our weekly NFL report with Isaac Graves. What do you have for us, Isaac?
Thanks, Ryan. The 10th week of NFL action started off red hot. The Thursday night game, one of the most electric of this whole season. LSU legends Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase didn't just come ready to ball, but to backpack the Bengals against one of the league's best in Baltimore. Burrow aired out for 428 ticks and 4 scores on the night, taking care of the ball as well with 0 turnovers. Wide receiver 1 would account for over half of those yards. Jamar Chase racked up 264 yards on his 11 catches. The former 5th overall pick would reach the end zone 3 times in the second half. The first an early strike to put the Bengals up 21-7, but the Ravens offense would come alive. Derrick Henry finding the end zone, he scored in every game this season. Lamar Jackson picked up a pair of touchdown passes to put the Ravens in front, one off a catch and run with errors in the secondary, and the other feeding a crossing route to Mark Andrews. The very next play, a big response from Jamar Chase, and we're back even. Ravens march the field inside the 2-minute warning. They go back in front with Jackson's 4th touchdown toss. With half a minute left on 3rd down, who else is open but numero uno for the hat trick? Bengals decide they aren't working extra hours this week, hanging the fate of the game on the 2-point try. A controversial 2-point pass attempt fails incomplete, and the Ravens get the narrow victory in the nail-biter, 35-34. If you left the room during the Sunday night game for more than a couple minutes, chances are you missed an interception or 2 from this one. Jared Goff set the tone early on the opening drive, and we go on to throw 2 more INTs in the first half. The Lions found themselves in a 23-7 hole at the half, but Dan Campbell's Coach Carter speech at halftime inspired a pick on the very first play. However, double agent Jared Goff gave it right back on the very next pass attempt, and things looked bleak for the Lions. They would punch in a short run after a Houston penalty, but missed the 2-point attempt after Carlton Davis picked off Stroud for the second time. Goff threw it back on the next pass attempt again. Incredibly, the Lions kept stiffing the Texans' defense, and after 10 more unanswered points, the Texans lined up a 58-yard kick to break the 23-23 tie. The kick sailed wide left, leaving the door open for Detroit to steal the win. They would do just exactly that. From 52 out, Jake Bates sending the kick through the upright by a millimeter to complete the miracle. The only team that can stake claim to a better record than Detroit, the Kansas City Chiefs, who welcome Bo and the Broncos to Arrowhead. Denver would score both their touchdowns by pass in the second quarter, going up 14-3 with time running down in the first half. Travis Kelce would score to break Denver's momentum, and Bronco kicker Will Lutz's 60-yard field goal before half fell short. The second half was a defensive standoff. Neither team able to generate any sort of ground game on the day, but Kansas City would drive all the way down to Denver's 2-yard line before settling for a 3 on fourth down. It looked like the decision to stay conservative for the 16-14 lead would come back to bite them, as Denver drove into the red zone and set up the game-winning kick from 35 yards out. Catch the next NFL action on Thursday. The Commanders and Eagles clash with huge NFC East implications in Philly. College football recently grieved the loss of an icon, and Ryan Jones has more info. Ryan?
Thanks, Isaac. Last Thursday, college football icon Ben the Dog sadly passed away at the age of 10. Ben was diagnosed with leukemia and lymphoma back in March. Ben, a golden retriever and ESPN host Kirk Herbstreit's emotional support animal, put a smile on not just the face of Kirk, but the players, fans, and everyone across the college world. When asked Kirk what Ben meant to him, he said, quote, "I've had dogs my whole life, but Ben was one of one. We understood each other, and we've had each other's backs. It's a hard day, but Ben will live within us all forever." End quote. Traveling with Kirk, Ben always had his media pass on his collar and went to multiple different cities and stadiums. He would always warm up with the players and play fetch on the field. Ben will be remembered forever, as ESPN on Saturday's College Game Day had a tribute video remembering Kirk's four-legged best friend. And as the college football community would say, Ben was a legend on and off the field, and he will be remembered forever. Next, Megan Lukic reports on NHL history that was recently made. Megan?
Thanks, Ryan. The Winnipeg Jets made NHL history last night, becoming the fastest team to reach 15 wins on the season following their 6-3 victory over the New York Rangers. The Jets started off their season on an 8-game winning streak that concluded with their only loss on the season so far. Since that loss, they have been on a 7-game winning streak, which includes last night's win over the Rangers. The Jets' 15-1 record has them sitting atop the NHL with 30 points, 6 points ahead of the second-place New Jersey Devils. Winnipeg's impressive start has put them in first place in several stats categories as well. They lead the league in goals per game with 4.56, as well as power play percentage with 42.2%. One of the key reasons for Winnipeg's success has been the stellar play of goaltender Connor Hellebuyck. The reigning Vezina Trophy winner leads all goaltenders in goals against average, save percentage, and shutouts. Hellebuyck has secured 12 out of 15 wins for Winnipeg, with 3 of those being his league-leading shutouts. Forward Mark Scheifele recently said about his goaltender, quote, "We have so much confidence in him, and when you have a goalie like that, it makes it easier," end quote. The Jets also being able to remain resilient on their winning streaks has been another factor in their success. Winnipeg has given up the first goal in 8 of their 16 games. 7 of those games they were able to complete the comeback win, which is yet another category that they lead the NHL in. Jets leading goal scorer Kyle Connor spoke about the process of the historic run following Tuesday night's game, saying, quote, "It's move on to the next one. It's how can we improve? How can we be better? I think that's what has made us successful to this point. Nobody is satisfied. There are still areas we can work on. We've won 15, but I think it speaks to the leadership not getting comfortable. There's still a lot of season left," end quote. The Jets will look to further their winning streak on Thursday night as they face off against the Tampa Bay Lightning in the second game of a 3-game road trip. Winnipeg has won all 7 of their road games so far this season. That's all for me and the rest of us. Back to you at the desk, Bryn.
Thanks, everyone. When we come back, we discuss the interesting college football season, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Now this college football season is bringing a new playoff format, and there are plenty of teams looking to make a run this year. With that being said, many are questioning if some of these playoff teams are legit or if they're frauds. I'm joined by Austin, Matt, and Ryan to discuss some of these teams. So to start, I'm going to give you guys a team. You're going to tell me if they're contenders or pretenders, and then we'll kind of go on from that. Tennessee, what do we think?
I like Tennessee. I'm going to say contenders.
Contenders?
I'm also going to say contenders.
I'm going to agree with you three. I think they're contenders.
Okay, really? Why do we think this? What's our take on this?
Honestly, I really like Nico at QB. I think he's been playing very, very well. I think the Alabama win is definitely what boosted me higher on them. I know Alabama's been a little sloppy this year. They've had their ups and downs, but I think when you have a dominant win like that, the only thing that I question is their sloppy wins against bad teams. We saw teams like that you're probably going to mention later that also do that. Like a team like Miami, they kept a bad team sitting with them and they won to beat them. So I question if Tennessee can really make that big run, but I do think that they have that capability, especially because I really like Nico at quarterback.
Our answer would be this weekend as they take on Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. They take on Georgia this weekend, which is a big game because that is honestly Georgia's make or break this year, and that's also Tennessee's make and break this year. Tennessee is also fifth on the defense, which is very, very different from last year. Their defense wasn't the best, is what hindered them throughout this year. Now with them having a solid defense that only allows 12.6 yards per game, I mean not yards, points per game, it's going to be really nice to see that full Tennessee team happen this year.
Absolutely, and I mean Tennessee is also undefeated at home as well. They're 6-0, and 3 of those games they put up 2 scores against their opposing teams. So I believe Nico, he has one heck of an arm. The offense is extremely explosive. I see Tennessee honestly making a legit run this year.
Amazing. Since we're all in agreement, we'll move on. What are our thoughts on Notre Dame?
Okay, I'm gonna say contenders, but that's hard to say. But I am gonna say contenders.
Okay.
Pretenders, honestly.
Pretenders.
Okay. Let's talk about it, Matt. You're alone here.
Now, we know that Week 1 loss to Northern Illinois sucks. I'm well aware. They have been very good since that Week 1 loss, especially as of late. They just beat Army by like 40. They won last week by 50. I know like the opponents are a little questionable, but when they are undefeated after that Week 1 loss, and momentum is a big thing in sports, and we know that. The fact that they've been dominating since that Week 1 loss, they were able to use that as momentum, build off of it, learn about it. Their run game has really been impressing me. They have a quarterback that can run. They have 2 running backs that can go deep. Their run game is great. They've been super impressive after that Week 1 loss. So I changed my mind. I'm going to say that they can contend for a chip this year.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I really don't see that happening. I mean, Riley Leonard, I'm not fully sold on him just yet. I mean, he had an impressive last year at Duke, but ever since he transferred, he has a turnover problem. He averages about 1 interception a game. He almost lost a couple of balls. I mean, the decisions he makes on 3rd down, I'm just not sold on Riley Leonard just yet. And I mean, the opponents that they have played. Purdue, really? You're telling me Purdue's a legit contender?
No.
Navy, Army. I'm not sold on these opponents just yet. And the NIU loss was just a disgrace. So I think they're pretenders.
I'll agree with you too. I mean, the thing about the playoffs is that you got to have a good quarterback in college to be a good team. And Riley Leonard, yes, he had his stellar year against Duke. Seeing him play in the ACC, but he's honestly struggled this year, and he's also played ACC teams all year long and struggled against them. And they're playing the weaker side of the ACC too, not the stronger side. So that's what scares me with Notre Dame, is that they're just not playing the teams, and they're not, I get it, they're beating them by double digits or triple digits. But the thing about it is that they're not beating the teams that are going to be in the playoffs down the road.
I'm sorry, I don't know how we can like talk about Tennessee who's also barely being bad teams and then say like Notre Dame was like killing them. Like that's a big difference.
But Tennessee is playing teams that are in the big Power 4 conference, and I get Notre Dame is too, but they're not playing the caliber that Tennessee's playing.
Did Notre Dame just play Florida State as well?
Yeah.
Yes,
Florida
exactly.
State's terrible, yes.
Do we have to say anything else?
No, but they beat them by 50, so.
Also Florida State.
Kind of, yes.
We'll move on to the next school. What are our thoughts on BYU?
I'm in between on them, but I'll go contenders, but kind of. I'm in between. I'll let you guys say yours though.
I'm gonna say contenders.
I'll go say contenders.
All right, Matt, why are you on the fence?
They kind of remind me of like TCU 2 years ago, if you know what I'm talking about. They beat Michigan in the first round, and then they lost to Georgia by a lot in the championship. BYU is like barely beating like mid teams. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's not like they're playing these extremely tough schools. So I'm in between on it, but I really like BYU. They're solid. Like they're a very solid team. I have to see them beat a big school for me to say they're for sure contenders, and that's why I'm on the fence.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and I mean the strength of schedule as well for BYU has been pretty tough this year as well. I honestly thought Iowa State was going to run away with the Big 12. Obviously, they dropped 2 of their most recent games, and the only other team that's really competing with them right now is Colorado, who's 2 games behind. BYU's my dark horse team this year.
I agree. I think BYU is going to be the team that shocks college football in the playoffs coming. I mean, they are in the top 30 for both offense and defense this year, which is something they haven't been able to say in a very long time. And you can see that on the field, too. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder because they were supposed to be in the middle of the pack in that new conference down there. And now they're on top of it, and they're playing with that chip saying that we're the guys coming out of our conference.
We're going to move on. What's our thoughts on Alabama?
What did Pat McAfee say? Give me Alabama. They're absolutely contenders this year.
Okay, Austin?
I'm going to say pretenders.
Okay.
I'm also going to say pretenders.
All right, you're alone again, Matt.
Okay.
Like,
wait. Before I ask, I want to ask you guys, are Georgia contenders?
Yes, I feel like they are.
I would say they're contenders.
Okay, so the team that they lost to is bad. Like Alabama is literally better than Georgia. Technically speaking, when you look at it, you guys are going to call Georgia contenders and then call Alabama pretenders. We've seen Bama do it before. They were fourth last year. They were very, very good last year. They also beat Georgia last year, and they did it again. Milroe has the experience. Carson Beck is garbage, and Milroe is definitely like one of the top quarterbacks, especially in that conference. I know I'm a little iffy on him, but he's definitely better than a lot of other quarterbacks in the country. There's not that many. There's some, but there's not too many, and Milroe has proven himself before. Yes, they have one really bad loss, but they just killed LSU. That is a big win for them going late into the season.
But the thing about it, who was their coach last year that helped them when they were struggling last year?
I agree.
When you lose a Nick Saban as a coach, I don't trust because they're not disciplined this year. I mean, their penalty toes might not say it, but they're not Nick Saban disciplined. And to be in the SEC, you've got to be Nick Saban disciplined or Kirby Smart disciplined, which that Georgia team really has been, which has shocked us because we heard all the news in the offseason with them having these off-field problems. With Bama this year, they're making the dumb mistakes, the personal foul calls. And they're missing, their third downs is either hit or miss. They're not consistent on third down, which scares me when you're coming from the SEC.
Absolutely, and I mean, both of these are great teams. I mean, Alabama and Georgia, 2 of the most explosive offenses in all of college football. But I mean, the head coaching difference. You have Kirby Smart, who's a 2-time national champion, also won national titles with Alabama when he was under Saban. And you got Kalen DeBoer for Alabama, who made it to the national championship with Washington, but ultimately lost to Michigan. I just don't trust that lack of experience when it comes to playoff time.
Well, Kirby Smart lost to Alabama, so I don't like.
we're
keeping this in mind.
The coach for Alabama now, he was in Washington last year. He's only been in 2 playoff games in his whole career.
Lack of experience.
Lack of experience.
What did he do last year, though? What did he do last year?
Yes, I get it, but he also had a top 15 quarterback in college football, and honestly, what was he, a top 15 pick of that year too? So I think that just the inexperience of that coach is going to hurt them a little bit come playoff time.
And I'm not going to disagree with you what you said about Carson Beck, because I'm not fully sold on Carson Beck as a quarterback just yet. I do trust Jalen Milroe more than Carson Beck, but I trust Beck more in Kirby Smart's system than I would Milroe in DeBoer's system right now. I mean, Milroe was a Saban quarterback. DeBoer really hasn't had a chance to go out and scout for any of his type of players that he would like to bring to this team. I mean, that's why Michael Penix Jr. worked out so well last year with Washington. I mean, they had 3 great receivers that made it into the draft. I don't exactly see that happen with Alabama once it comes postseason time.
All right, I'm going to cut you guys off there. We'll see how this goes as November finishes and we enter December, because that's all the time we have this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.